What's up, everybody? Mike Ham here with another episode of Greetings from the Garden State. We're here in my hometown, Morristown, New Jersey, at Motown Fitness with Karianne Anthes. Karianne, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me here. I've never been in a CrossFit gym before, I'm a first timer.
Awesome.
So I feel a little bit intimidated because, like I mentioned to you before, I have a $20, a month membership that I may or may not use at like a
Globo gym. We call it a Globo gym.
Right. So this is definitely a little bit unique for me. So
yes. Good thing we're not working out though. This is just you being in the space.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I would die.
You'd be okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, okay. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the business. Let's talk about you. Let's talk about you first, because obviously you own this place. Mm-hmm. So let's kind of talk about your background and kind of weave your way to when you start this year.
So I was not a fitness sports person. I know you said you were a baseball player. I didn't do really sports in high school, but found fitness kind of late, like when I was 20, 21, relative to, kids being in sports and whatnot. And just, had that experience for myself of like putting the work in, seeing some results, and that sort of got me hooked a little bit. At the time I was at Rutgers, and there was a position to work in their gym, did that, kind of took those small steps. And fast forward, I ended up, after some years of doing like management in the fitness industry, I just felt like there was something missing, from working in the fitness industry, whether it's a personal trainer at New York Sports Club or managing a wellness center. Mm-hmm. It just didn't feel like it actually connected to what I wanted to do, which was to really make a change in people's lives through fitness. So I quit that job and I opened a boot camp in a park, which at the time you could do that. Now it's like $100 an hour to rent park space. Yeah. I had 2 little kids at home and not really much of a plan, but just knew that I had to pursue something that was meaningful. And then I found CrossFit. Went to a seminar, had no idea what it was. And I guess, at the time, CrossFit started back in the early 2000s. It was very grassroots. It was very much about, having an experience through movement, not just having it be about the what. Like, you're doing cardio, you're doing this, there's mirrors. It was very community-based, and it resonated with me about really a tool to help people better themselves. Yeah. So, of course, I went home, decided to open a gym. Right. Also, not really much in terms of like a financial plan for that.
Who needs that?
Don't need it. Business, whatever.
Because these types of places, I'm sure, just like print money.
Yes. Yes.
Obviously.
We have a machine in the back where, I'll show you after.
Okay, cool. Yeah. If I could take some videos of that, maybe steal some if you need,
I really, not having had experience as an entrepreneur, but I just knew I felt really passionate, and kind of my motto, not very sophisticated, but was like, where there's a will, there's a way, and was willing to do the work. So I opened in 2008 in Bernardsville, a small space, had some of my ladies, which is kind of funny. The housewives of Bernardsville were like the first CrossFitters in New Jersey, and from there just kind of kept trucking along, and it was gaining interest. And at that time there wasn't HIIT training. That CrossFit really was the thing that birthed HIIT training, to be honest. So it was kind of new but interesting, and people could, I think, sense that this was different. There weren't mirrors on the walls. It was a unique workout every day. It was fun. And then, I grew up in Basking Ridge, so we would always come to headquarters for movies, of course. Of course. And so I used to drive down Market Street all the time, and there was a space to the left. Those of you that are familiar with Morristown, if you're not in Morristown, there was this vacant space. There used to be a motorcycle in there. There was all kinds of things that happened there. Yeah. And when I opened in Bernardsville, I would come through there, and I was always looking at the space thinking this would be an awesome CrossFit gym. Yeah. For people that don't know, CrossFit gyms are big, empty spaces, very commercial type.
Like a warehouse almost. Yeah.
And so I pursued that. I got a great deal at the time. In 2010, Morristown was not where it is today. Oh, right. It's kind of at a low point. Yeah. And really it coincided with CrossFit taking off at the time. So that was great. I had developed a team of people. Kind of cool that the people, a lot of the CrossFit gyms now in New Jersey, I don't even know how many there are. Yeah. When I opened, we were number 3. Now there's
The Berners,
thousands.
The Burnsville location was the number 3 one. Okay.
So we had a lot of people, whether they were members or coaches, end up coming in, having that same path towards finding their own desire to open a gym. And so yeah, it was kind of an exciting adventure. I worked for CrossFit, and so it was kind of all in for a long time.
Yeah.
And then closed the Burnersville gym at one point. Just, it was kind of too small of a town and couldn't support it.
So you had 2 going at once?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we moved to this location, which we're at currently. As many know, there's a lot of construction going on and upgrades. So that old building sadly was torn down, but it's a much nicer building now. So, and this has been our home. So definitely been an interesting journey as a female entrepreneur, mother in a fitness industry that's generally male dominated. But I am super proud of our gym and all the people that have kind of come through here as, you know, staff and members and whatnot. So
So in this location, you've been here for how long again?
I believe we moved in here in 2014.
Okay. All right. So like 7 or so, 6, 7 years.
Yep.
And then like over that time, like has it being here in Morristown and kind of like riding the wave, like you said, of Morristown kind of, you know, expanding and taking off, has that, you know, have you seen the same type of changes here in the business? Like, has the CrossFit, I think it was like almost like a phenomenon when it first started.
Yeah.
And then, you know, obviously it kind of waned, but has that, you know.
Yeah. I mean, of course, like in 2010, we opened in Morristown. So that 2010 to 2012 was like that's never going to happen again. That was that was like a boom of, but I do think as that sort of dwindled, the consistency of people now, we're on a much more consistent, established kind of path where I think our reputation, and it's hard sometimes to know objectively what people think of your, you know, business in that way. I think people definitely recognize us as a CrossFit gym. We are a CrossFit gym, but I do know that this community, the word of mouth, we've established ourselves as just like a good gym to go to. That gym is, I hear they're a good place to go. I think we've got a foothold in the community, and as the community's kind of grown and we've had more people come in and a different demographic, you know, we've evolved with it.
Yeah. Of course. And I think also, too, what would be interesting, because I was asking you before, and I feel like we should just add it into the podcast now. So, like take me through, like, the process. So, like, you guys run group classes here.
Yeah.
Like we said, that people don't really just come in here and work out on their own.
Right.
It's really kind of about, you know, being part of a group and doing that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah. So it's the easiest way for people to understand it is it's sort of like group personal training. So, you know, I started in like group exercise where it was like step aerobics and cardio kickboxing.
Jazzercise.
Yeah. So it's not really that. I mean, that could be fun every now and then. I'm like, oh, this could be fun. Bring that back. I'm going to bring it back. But it's more like if you were in a private training, personal training session with a bunch of people. So someone comes in, or contrary to what a lot of people believe, you don't have to already be fit to come here.
Okay.
My mom is
You're speaking my language.
Yeah. This is the hook.
This is the hook, right? Yeah.
My mom is 75. She comes here 3 days a week. Of course, we have a spectrum of people. The point is, our goal here is people want to get fit.
Yeah.
They want to be reasonable. They want to lose weight, look better, feel good. That's kind of like the general gist of fitness, I think.
Right.
I think a lot of people, though, see either the CrossFit professional athletes and think that's what happens here. So sometimes the barrier to entry can be high.
Yeah.
Because people have a preconceived notion that they're going to come in, they're in a group, they're going to be the worst one.
Right.
I mean, that's almost verbatim everybody's experience. Then they come in, they have this experience like, man, I should have joined here sooner. I didn't realize it was. But at any rate, someone would come in and there's a workout of the day. So there is an hour-long class. You are moving your body and working out the whole time, but the workout of the day is kind of the thing you're building to. They sort of like, all right, this is what we're doing today.
Okay.
So the coach takes you from everything from assuming you just rolled out of bed, like have had no movement, all the way up until the workout. And that means we have a physical therapist on staff. We've been doing this a long time. We try to make it, generally get people moving first. Then we always teach something. So everybody knows what a kettlebell is these days, which is kind of funny. Like 10 years ago, there were no kettlebells.
Exactly.
Even something like a kettlebell swing, we don't assume, and this is varies from gym to gym. Hey, we're going to review the kettlebell. Even if you've been doing this, you're a super amazing CrossFitter.
Right.
Hey, there's still probably some things you're doing that we could work on or
Clean
whatever.
it up a little bit.
Yeah. So that way, people's job when they come here, they're not professional fitnessers. They're people that have jobs, and for them to know and retain some of this is like, they just want to come and have fun.
Right.
So it's our job to kind of make sure they're safe. And then we make sure everybody for that workout, let's say we combine like weightlifting, body weight, and cardio in any number of variations. That's kind of the CrossFit gist.
Right.
So if it was running, you're going to do this 3 times. You're going to run, you're going to come in and do 10 push-ups, and you're going to do 10 jumps on this box. Usually we start the clock, so there's a little bit of that competitive element.
Sure.
Not with other people as much, we encourage it, but perhaps you're going to do that again in a few months. Wow, last time I could barely run. I'm not looking at you, but
you're not looking at me.
Yeah.
I think you were, maybe.
But,
I do
maybe
run in the morning now.
Okay.
I started doing that because I felt like it
so that workout would be good for you.
Wakes the body up a little bit. I don't go fast or far, but I do something.
Just down to the end of the driveway back.
Around the block.
Okay.
Yeah.
But so that might be like, my mom is not going to jump on this box.
Right. Yeah.
She might jump on a plate. She might ride the bike. She might walk. So I think that's where, people miss that, 90% of the people are not doing all exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
There's some variation. People come to us with bad knees, bad backs, like life happens to people.
Sure.
Our goal is to get them moving and having fun. The best form of fitness is the one that people want to come to.
Exactly. And that motivates you.
Yeah. And so if people, we have people here, everyone can do this. This isn't for everyone.
Right.
And I think people who make absolutes about whatever their modality is, whether it's yoga or Pilates or spinning, everybody can do that. It might not resonate with everyone.
Yeah.
So we have people come try it. It's kind of a I hate this or I love this experience.
Right.
Like, I'm in.
Yeah.
How did I not know about this? Or I'm not even going to walk on this street. I'm going to avoid this place like the plague.
Yeah.
So, but I think people surprise themselves when they try it.
Yeah.
They find that, oh wow, I felt like someone was paying attention. I was really safe. The people were welcoming. So that's kind of the basic experience of how people come here. But it's all mostly class-based. It doesn't make sense. You're coming for the coaching.
Right.
You're coming for the programming. You're coming for the environment. To come in here by yourself, there are people that might do that as a member.
Yeah.
They have access to that, but that's not really where the value is.
Right. It's being around the other people.
Yeah.
And how many people do you have on staff? So, are you coaching all these classes?
Right. So I actually, at this point, don't coach really. I'm not on the schedule at all.
Right.
And that's sort of been a evolution over time, for sure. When I opened, I was there for everything. But it's great because now we have a team of 12 coaches, 3 that are more of the full-time nature, coaching quite a bit. And then, part-timers who have been here for a very long time, we have a dentist, we have all these people, but they just love this, that they keep it as part of, it's a passion project to coach 1 or 2 classes a week. So,
that's awesome. All right, so we're a little bit over what our normal time on our first segment. No, that's okay. That was great. You gave me everything that I needed, and I barely had to ask any questions. So we're gonna take a short break.
Okay.
We're gonna come right back. This is the Greetings from the Garden State podcast. We're here in Morristown, New Jersey, at Motown Fitness. I'm Mike Ham. She's Karianne Anthes. We'll be right back. Today in New Jersey History is sponsored by PayPro. Let PayPro help your organization with its human capital management and employee benefits so you can scale and grow. To learn more, head to payprocorp.com. On December 6, 1886, poet Joyce Kilmer, best known for his poem Trees, was born in New Brunswick, New Jersey. He would die by a sniper's bullet in a World War I battlefield in France in 1918. And that is today in New Jersey history. All right, we're back. This is the Greetings from the Garden State podcast. We're here in Morristown, New Jersey at Motown Fitness with Karianne Anthes. So in the first segment, we kind of learned a little bit about your background, the background of the business, kind of a little bit more, flesh out what actually happens in here, because I feel like a lot of people walk down, what is this, Dumont
Street.
Dumont Street?
Place? I think it's place. I'm very bad at those things. Don't ask me.
That's good. When we get to the end, I'm going to ask you the address of the place. But so this is Dumont in Morristown, and I feel like a lot of people just walk by here. They see the Motown on the wall.
It's a cool sign.
It's a cool sign. Yeah, I've definitely taken pictures of it before and posted it various places. But I had no idea like what actually went on here until one day I was like watching people run up and down the thing, and I was like, "Oh, that must be a CrossFit gym."
Right. Or there's a fire.
Right. But they're running back into the building, so. I mean, maybe they're fighting it, but I would doubt it. They didn't look like they had the appropriate gear. But all right, so we kind of learned like what happens here. But can we get deeper into like maybe the benefits of someone doing something like this? Because like we just mentioned, like a whole bunch of stuff, Pilates, yoga, spin, and you said that something can work for anybody.
Yes.
Like as long as they're like in on it.
Yeah.
Can we talk maybe more about like why CrossFit is like your thing,
right?
Like why that eventually kind of became your thing.
I mean, I think CrossFit, as I mentioned earlier, some of the intangibles, like, there is something to be said about having a little bit going into workouts. Most people here go into it feeling I don't want to say nervous, but like, I don't know if I can do that. And, regardless of if you're just a recreational fitness person, what kind of helps with motivation is continuing to achieve things. Yeah. So like, oh wow, I jumped on that box. I, did a little more weight or whatever it is. And I think, those small little goals for people is for sure a benefit, and making it about something that when you leave the four walls of this gym, it does influence you outside of here. That's really what we care about. What happens in this 1 hour of your day is less important than really the benefits that you get in the other 23. Yeah. But, when you look at fitness and, my husband and I own another small gym that isn't a CrossFit gym. So I can kind of, not completely objectively, because I do own a CrossFit gym, but, this type of training, what's great about it that maybe other trainings don't have is you are moving your body through, like your joints through a full range of motion. So something like, and I'm an endurance athlete myself, so I love biking, but biking, you're not sitting down, standing up. Running is, has certain things that are great, but it lacks other things. So from a physical, like my mother I mentioned is 75, it's really important for her to like sit down and stand up. Yeah. Once you if you don't use it, you lose it. Right. Strength training, we all know that's super important for people. And I think people get the like, okay, I should go to the gym and lift some weights and do some cardio. I mean, blood pressure, all that, pretty much any list of health benefits. Yeah. People, I don't think it's for lack of knowing, like exercise good, weight training good. Right. But I do think it is the intangibles that is really the true benefit, because it's what has the person come back and say, has them build confidence, has them feel like things that maybe they didn't think were within their reach, like now they're like thinking maybe a little differently about it. Yeah. And what's really unique about, I will say, about CrossFit is the community, which, in the past has gotten sort of, there's a borderline of like, people who aren't in it. It's like, is that thing a cult? Or, people are really into it. Yeah. Like, you don't have to wonder if someone does CrossFit. They will tell you.
They will tell you. It's like having a podcast. I tell people I have a podcast.
Yes, they all know.
All the time. Right.
But I think it is like just such a unique community, and people don't know what other people maybe do for work, how much money they have, what car they drive. Yeah. You can't buy hard work. Yeah. And there is an element of hard work here. Doesn't mean every day you have to come in here and almost have a near-death experience. That's not what we encourage. In fact, that's not good for you.
Right. I would imagine that.
But it's about people supporting each other just as like human to human. Yeah. And I'm sure that exists in many other things as well. It's not unique to CrossFit. Right. But that's kind of what is cultivated here. And I think the variety as well from a technical side, anything that is like monotonous, you could love it. It's like you love this like one smoothie. Yeah. And then after about 20 days of that smoothie, you're like, oh my God, I cannot have the smoothie again. Exactly. So there's enough variety here for both your, attention span and your body to kind of continue to want to hang on to it. So that's kind of what I would say is the multitude of benefits to what we do.
Right. And we talked a lot about how, like, you know, the focus here is on, you know, growing confidence and being a part of the group. And it's like, you know, kind of everybody rowing the boat in the same direction to a certain degree. So, like, also, how many people, like, on average would be in a class here?
I mean, it definitely varies. There's some classes that are like a more popular class that might be 15. And there might be, you know, 10 to 15 is usually the average.
Okay.
You know, there's been times on a Saturday, a community class that people are all into. It's like 20 people. There's less of that. I think people are, we're kind of at a place where people are a little more spread out and we have more classes. Maybe that's part of it. But so nobody feels like they're being singled out and like having all the attention on them.
Right.
But we make sure that everybody feels that connection with the coach. Like, wow, I was like spoken to, like, so they use my name. I know what to do. Nobody ever feels lost in the crowd, which can happen and is one of the things with group fitness. Like,
with like a big class, I would imagine you could just like never talk to anybody. I mean, you know,
which is how you train your coaches. And hey, like this, the priority here is like, yes, there's technical things about being a coach. It's really important to know there's a lot of knowledge.
Yeah.
But the main thing is like making sure people feel cared about and taken care of. When they leave, they're going to remember more that like you really took care of them than if you gave them some amazing tip about where your knee is relative to your ankle. Like, who cares? You know, it's like, so that's kind of part of just building a staff that can navigate that.
Of course. And then also, I mean, you said like, so 7 years here in this location and kind of, you know, 15 to 20 people or 10 to 15 on the average in a class. And then over the last like 18, because we're recording this in October, just so everyone listening knows when we're recording this, like over the last 18 months or so, obviously I'm sure there was plenty of times where there wasn't anybody here because they were not allowed. So like, what was it like navigating that kind of stuff and getting yourself out to the end here where you said, you know, you have more classes and hopefully more people getting involved and doing this kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, what is unique about having a community gym like this versus maybe a Globo gym like Retro or Gold's Gym is people do feel tied to the coaches, the owner, each other.
Right.
So like many people, we moved online. But there was something about like showing up for people. That was like something people really looked forward to. Like, okay, at least I have that. I have this class. We lent out all of our equipment. Like, all right, guys, like we're going to still have something that you can count on as part of something that's important in your day. There's a workout. It's not just push-ups and sit-ups every day because that would get old. So trying to keep some normalcy, keep some connection. So we really, you know, of course, we lost people. But relatively speaking, most of our members stayed on. Some offered to pay for other members who lost their job. Like, it was just really an incredible time. And then when we were able to open, it definitely took us a few months. It kind of felt like, where is everyone? Like the apocalypse or something.
Because they were all stuck to their couches.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Or afraid or
of course.
Like, or just not able to get going. And I will say, I think probably the past 2 months, I feel like there's been more of an uptick now in just the consistency of people coming in, trying it. People that aren't maybe fit, like, are more of like a non-fit person who maybe wasn't all into CrossFit before. That are saying like, yeah, I'm curious about this. I want to give it a try. So that's really encouraging because I do think if we didn't learn anything from a health crisis and a pandemic about our health.
Stay healthy. Right.
So that's been really great. And it's been awesome to see just new faces and kind of build and evolve. And, we don't discriminate against any fitness level. And like, we really are for everybody. So.
Right. And then also, were there things, because you mentioned going online and doing virtual stuff and lending out your equipment, but were there any things that maybe you implemented, and maybe not, because I feel like the stuff has to happen here for the most part, any things that you did over the course of the last 18 months that you were like, hey, if not for that, we would never have tried this, so maybe this is something we're going to keep going in the future, even beyond just, COVID times?
Yeah, I mean, we had, it occurred to me early on, being in the greater CrossFit community, there are athletes, there are other coaches that it would be weird 2 years ago to be like, will you do a virtual thing for us?
Like
and be
guest.
like, what? I'm not traveling there. So we ended up having like these amazing world-class coaches and people that, could jump in and coach us. Like that was sort of, I think everybody in the world opened up to the virtual space. And for us, it just closed the gap a little bit between other communities and ours. Some of the outdoor types of events, just kind of popping up and thinking, oh yeah, we could do that. Training for things like we have an endurance community, like, all right, everybody's going to train on this program and then we'll all go to this event. Like you don't necessarily have to, you can all be following something and feel like you're, with other people without being physically in that space. So, I think that was all an opportunity. I think it also just not really like a thing we did, but it definitely opened our eyes to what matters to people, like at the end of the day, and what is sort of irrelevant. Yeah. And it made us appreciate when we could do things that you can't do during a pandemic. Like we had a competition recently and it was just such a great vibe and people had fun, and that there was like a awareness during it, like, wow, we couldn't have even been here sharing the space. Yeah. And just, it makes you a little more,
because you don't realize it until it's like taken away. Yeah. And then once it's taken away, you're like, oh, wow, that was like really important to me or whatever. So awesome. All right. So we're going to take our second break, our last break of this episode. I'm Mike Ham. This is the Greetings from the Garden State podcast. We're here at Motown Fitness in Morristown, New Jersey with Karianne Anthes. We'll be right back. It is time for your New Jersey fun fact of the day. Did you know that New Jersey has a state fish? The brook trout. And that is your New Jersey fun fact of the day. All right, we're back for our last segment here at Motown Fitness in Morristown, New Jersey. This is the Greetings from the Garden State podcast. I'm Mike Ham with Karianne Anthes. So we've spent the first two segments talking about the background of the business, your background, the benefits of doing CrossFit type stuff, and then we talked a little bit about the last 18 months, and we kind of gotten ourselves past that. So now we're going to get into my favorite segment of the podcast, the community stuff, because that's what we do for every single show or every single episode. And because this is a podcast that's focused here on stuff in New Jersey, we want to know what's going on with you and the community at large and all that. So talk to me, because we've said several times, you've said several times that this is a community gym. Yeah. And I wrote that down because I thought that was a good thing to segue into this part of the conversation. So talking about the community, what are some ways that maybe Motown Fitness gets involved with the community, whether here around Morristown or New Jersey or Morris County or whatever? Yeah.
One of the things we're actually starting just in November, which is kind of, and we've dabbled in it in different ways, is, outreach with kids, providing a program that offers scholarships to kids coming in and training in the afternoons. One of our members has actually spearheaded that. So as of November, in the afternoons, we had a fundraiser recently for it. Forging Youth Resilience is the name of it's associated with CrossFit. A lot of CrossFit gyms have gotten involved. And she's actually funding that. And we have a lot of our members that got behind it. So, because we know the power of movement, having a safe place to come, community, having a mentor that cares about you, irrelevant again of what you're doing in here, squats, jumps, whatever. Right. Yeah. That is so important to young people. Yeah. So being able to offer that to them free of charge, that will be something amazing for specifically Morristown. Right. There's some amazing people doing this elsewhere, and they've been kind enough to just share what they've done and how they've done it. So we're excited about that, and that's huge to continue to get the word out to schools. She's working with that. To encourage these kids to come in, bring friends, whatnot. Yeah. So that's big. We do some, my husband is a veteran, so we are, very mindful of the veteran community. Mm-hmm. And while it's not specific maybe to New Jersey or Morristown, this year we are doing an event. It's really it's step ups. So it's not a whole crazy workout. It's can you step on something and step off? And it's really about raising awareness and fundraising for veteran suicide, which is a huge issue in our country. So, I think in this area, we live in Bernardsville, it's not the military culture isn't really on our radar. Sure. Not good or bad, just it's not. And so, getting people involved in that, it's a very meaningful workout to do in a group. Everybody can do it. And it definitely has you pause and cultivate some, appreciation, but also spreading some education to people. Yeah. So we often have fundraisers. I mean, it's sometimes tough to cut back on, you know, everybody has a cause, but most years we have one or two that are things that are near and dear to members' hearts, whether it's a family member that's got a diagnosis and we're raising, you know, funds for research or otherwise. So it's really, we're really fortunate that we always have people getting behind those things that we do. And we're hoping that we get the bigger Morristown community involved. I think sometimes it's a hesitation of, it becomes unfortunately about like the business, and it's not about the business at all.
Right. Yeah.
We would be happy to host and bring boxes to any parking lot and not mention us whatsoever.
Right.
But
it's not about that. It's about, you know, doing it for the right reasons.
So we're hopeful to get, you know, we have obviously great relationships with some of the other gyms, and we hope that people embrace it as like, you know, rising tides raise all ships. Yeah. And just the more we can do, if somebody needed our space for a fundraiser and they own a whatever, I mean, that's really how things should go. So those are kind of two things that are going on now. And we're always looking for ways to bring our community out into the bigger community and, you know, have a positive impact.
Right. And I love that you said that too, because I feel like I'm a firm believer in like, if you put out good into the world, like eventually good comes back to you. And that's not why you do it, but you just you just start like the vibe that you put out, you attract those same vibes. Yeah. So if you have like a crappy vibe, you're going to attract people with crappy vibes and most likely crappy people. But if you put out good and then you're getting good back. And one of the things that you were talking about in the previous segment about, you know, navigating the last 18 months was just the reverse relationship. You know, like the community kind of lifting up what you guys do here because they know that it's important. Mm-hmm. So can you talk maybe a little bit more about that and like the importance of like the reverse relationship? So like the community kind of supporting what you guys do here.
Yeah, and I think that is something Morristown, obviously during the pandemic, that was a huge initiative. You know, people, I think more than ever in my time owning a business, was really an action-based effort of people to support. You know, I think it's, in all honesty, it's easier to support a restaurant or a shop than there's a whole other thing with like joining a gym and a commitment. Like you can buy a piece of pizza.
Takeout workout. Yeah. You know? I mean, virtual, I guess, but it's different. Yeah.
Right. It's just, there's a whole other slew of things there.
And like you said, anybody can buy a slice of pizza.
Yes.
You know?
And eat it. It's, you know, take one for the team. So, but I do think it is a very, mutual, you know, relationship where we recently have a coach that's leaving after 10 years and moving and met his wife here and, you know, kind of a great story of community. What better story is there? But, you know, we had a going away party and it was just incredible to hear people saying like how, like they, during the pandemic is a great example, continue to give back because this community has given so much to them. Yeah. The woman that's doing the supporting this effort with kids, you know, she lost her son and joined this gym right after, and it was what kind of helped support her and get her through. And so I think when people have that experience somewhere, whether it's whatever it is, it's so important. And you know, you can look back to all sorts of tragedies in history. That community, being in community with other people, like that's how we're wired. Yeah. And so I think when people feel really passionate about it, they are willing to give back. We had a competition. We had 15 people volunteer an entire day to just, you know, move boxes around. Right. And I'm always like amazed by that because you don't take that for granted or
especially now, like we were saying. Yeah. Like something that definitely sticks with you for sure. Okay, awesome. So if people are listening to this episode, and I can't imagine that they're not thinking what I'm thinking, like, hey, like this sounds like something I want to like try. Yeah. Like how do they even go about, like, what's the process to get themselves like started here?
Right. So there's a couple different things. We do have, for many people, they're like, I'm not going in there to just a normal class. Yeah. Which I get. We do have a beginner course that happens like 4 times a year. So it's like you're only with other people that are beginners, and that we launched, like, we just finished one. So there's a beginner class. You can come and take a class at any time. And it is our job, and we have many people that have lived to tell and are still members, who, like, we will not have you like, all right, you're going to hop over that bar and do a bunch of twists. Like, that's not what's happening. We're giving you an experience of like where you're at. We ask what your experience is, and you're basically coming in and being like, okay, yeah, I like this vibe. I like this coach. I like these people. I'm interested in trying this again. Right. So you can always just take a class and try it. And then starting this, well, probably in November, we have like a designated day, Sundays at 11 a.m. If you're someone new, you can kind of come in and it's a specific class sort of time to be with a coach. And, you know, many people feel like they want to ease into it a little bit. They want to come, check it out, talk to someone. You can always do that. So I think that's just taking the first step, whether it's just coming in and talking to us, or you're like, yeah, you know what, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to take a class, or I'd like to do it, but I need to do like the beginner from step one. I think it always depends on the person. But as I said, people are always taken care of. And it's, you know, I think it's an interesting, people come to a spinning class or a yoga class, and that culture, we don't think as much about, can I do this? You know? But sometimes people can get, you know, have a hard time getting out of their own way here. So, there's a lot of options. We always have encouraged people to just reach out and come to the gym first, step in the doors and like come past the sign.
Right. Yeah. Cross the threshold, you know, and come in here and see what it's
and
all about.
All of our memberships, if people, you know, we're not very much, I've realized after 14 years of business, I don't think I've never been the hounding people. I've experienced it on the receiving end as a, you know, as a, whatever you call it, patron of places. Like, someone emailing me 1,000 times is not going to get me to change my mind. So people come, they try it. Hey, how'd you like the class? If you're interested, this is what we do. They either say like, thanks, no thanks, or we do have a pretty high rate of people that say, yeah, I want to keep going. Yeah. So it's a month. We don't do more than a month. I mean, during COVID, we just cut it back because there's so many people moving and doing the whole, like, unless you move 20 miles away thing, like, and chasing, like, it's just, it's not reasonable. So you do a month. If you love it, great. And if it's not for you, then, you know, you had a month of fitness. So it's pretty low key, I would say.
But like, so you don't even, but like you said, you don't even need to be a member. You could just be like, hey, I'm coming to this class.
Yeah. You just come try it. Right. And we get information. We let the coach know, like, there's a series of questions. So we have some sense of like, hey,
where you're at.
Yeah. Like, where are you at? And then
what have you been doing for the last 31 years?
The only problem we have is when people don't listen to the coach and they're like, and I will be fully transparent that can be the one pitfall of sometimes the energy in a group class. It kind of reminds me of like the Office episode of Dwight, like spinning. And they're like, no, we're cooling down. So anyway, if you are like, okay, we're going to just do this. You're like, no, I need to jump on that box like that person. Meanwhile, nobody's paying attention to what you're doing.
Right. Nobody
They're
really
all
cares.
on their own thing. Yeah. And you overdo it, and then you're like, all right, how was the class? Like, it was just way too hard. You're like, but I told you not to jump on that box. So that's really the only problem. If you don't heed the advice of what we're telling you, we can't really control that. But otherwise, people always have a great experience if they're not a member and they just want to come and try it. Yeah.
What are some other places they can go to get more info? Like website, Instagram, obviously.
Yeah, so you can go to cfmotown.com. And we also have our Instagram, Motown_fitness. Those are basically the two main places on that Instagram handle. Of course, there's a link tree with some of the stuff we do, but those are basically the two. Right on the website, it says take a class.
Right. That seems very straightforward.
So it's kind of it. But
and then also, I mean, I forgot to ask this earlier, and this will be kind of like our closing question, is kind of like looking into the future. Mm-hmm. You know, like, what are some, maybe, do you have goals that you want to try to accomplish with this place? Is it to have like more locations? Is it to have this place have classes like all day? You know, like, what are some things that you're trying to maybe accomplish?
Yeah. I wouldn't say more locations. I think,
one's enough, or two, I guess.
Our other gym, and just having had that experience, like, you really, because it is, you know, such a close community, because it does really rely on personal connections, it's not like just open up a place and put some people in and go. There really has to be that care. And I think people get into trouble when they try to just do the math and like, oh, if we just have 3 of these, we'll just triple our whatever.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, really it's to continue just have people come through the doors. And, you grow of course, sure. But I don't have a number, or I do hope for more of like the bigger community that we can, break through some of the problems out there with just health in general. And, one of the things that happens when you start working out, of course, that will help your health.
Yep.
But it does change something that all of a sudden now there is like, maybe I should care also about what I'm eating. And it's a gateway drug into like other things that, right now there's also a huge mental health crisis. We know that. And movement and mental health are connected because it turns out your body is, all connected to your brain.
Right. Weird.
So, that's definitely more what we do in our other gym. But for this gym, just continuing to help people be better each day and share that with others. And, I guess that's my one thing is sometimes I think our gym can be misunderstood, or types of gyms like this.
Yeah.
And then that's such a frustration because it keeps people from maybe having potential or reaching goals that they could have, otherwise reached if they understood us better. So,
right. Exactly. Yeah. No, I think that's great. And like, because kind of going off of that, I think one of the things, like we've talked about it a couple times, is like whatever, like the stigma may be, or like whatever, like the, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like intimidating a little bit. Like you were talking about yoga and spin class. Like most people can sit on a bike and spin the wheels.
Yes.
Most people can lay on a mat and like just
lay.
Like I can do that. Yeah. I'm a pro. But this one, because it has like, so many different things that they have to do, I think people may get scared off. But what I will say, as we kind of wrap up this episode, is like, I just reached out and you were like, come on in. Right. And you're like the nicest person. You even, full disclosure, offered to buy me a cup of coffee before this. I don't know if you were trying to like
schmooze you,
butter me up, and
I
like
just
to
don't want
give
you
you
to
a good
say
interview.
horrible things
Exactly,
about me.
right. Yeah, but yeah, like that was one of the things that I just, not that I didn't expect that, but I think it was just one of those things where it just kind of shows just like the welcoming atmosphere of a place like this, because this is
being open.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. You're just a welcoming place, person, all that kind of stuff. So if people are looking to this episode, I guess if they're looking on YouTube over there. But yeah, so people are listening to this episode and they want to check it out. The address we said was on Dumont,
38 Dumont Place. We think it's
sure
Place.
It's Place.
Yeah, we're going with Place.
Yeah, we both. I mean, you own a business here and I live here, and
yes, it's Place.
Yeah, it's definitely Place.
I probably you go second in that order of. Right. I should probably know the address of my gym. That's how we're just so relaxed and chill. We don't even know our address here.
It has a giant Motown on the wall outside.
That's our identifying mark.
The calling card. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Awesome.
Cool.
So they can come down, check it out, all that kind of stuff. Reach out, ask questions, get educated on it, and then try it. Yeah.
And Instagram's a great place because you can kind of stalk us there. You can kind of see some of the types of people. We post like events we do, and I think that's kind of where people go to kind of see like, can I see myself in this crowd, and do I like what they're putting out, or are these people crazy? And I hope the former.
I don't think it is.
Okay.
Yeah. Right.
Gonna have to go back and look at that.
Right.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for having me in the space. Now I'm going to go take a bunch of videos and sign up for a class and maybe die, but we'll see. But awesome. So thank you again for doing this. This has been the Greetings from the Garden State podcast. We're here at Motown Fitness in Morristown, New Jersey with Karianne Anthes. I'm Mike Ham. Thank you for listening.